Incident 1. The stadium in Buenos Aires was packed for the long-awaited derby match. 28-year-old striker Diego Martínez jogged onto the pitch with his usual confidence. The heat was heavy, and players moved slower than usual. Fans cheered wildly as the first half began. Diego pushed forward, trying to break through the defense. Sweat poured down his face as the temperature kept rising. He suddenly placed a hand on his chest, slowing his pace. His teammates didn't notice the shift in his movement. Diego tried to signal to the bench but stumbled mid-stride. The crowd thought he had tripped on the turf. He collapsed face-first onto the field without bracing his fall. Players froze as they realized something was terribly wrong. The referee sprinted toward him, waving for medical help. Diego's body twitched once, then went completely still. Panic spread through the stadium as silence replaced the cheering. Medics flipped him over, revealing wide, empty eyes. CPR began immediately as thousands watched in disbelief. His pulse faded despite repeated chest compressions. An oxygen mask was placed over his face, but he didn't respond. Fans covered their mouths, fearing the worst. After 10 minutes, the lead medic shook his head slowly. His teammates dropped to their knees in shock. The stadium announcer begged the crowd to remain calm. Diego's body was carried off the pitch under a sheet. His final moment had unfolded in front of 40,000 stunned spectators. Incident 2. The crowd roared as the next match began in Rio. 26-year-old midfielder Lucas Ferreira sprinted onto the field. The humidity made the air thick and heavy. Fans waved banners and shouted his name. Lucas weaved past defenders with practiced ease. His breathing was rapid, sweat dripping down his face. Midway through the first half, he stumbled slightly. Teammates assumed it was fatigue from the heat. He shook his head and tried to continue playing. A sharp pain suddenly gripped his chest. He froze mid-stride, eyes wide with panic. The ball rolled harmlessly past him as he collapsed. Players rushed toward him, confusion in their faces. The referee signaled for emergency help immediately. Lucas twitched once, then lay still on the grass. Medics reached him, starting CPR without delay. Fans fell silent, realizing the severity of the moment. His pulse was faint, barely detectable under frantic hands. Oxygen was applied as teammates knelt around him. The stadium atmosphere shifted from excitement to horror. The medic shook his head, signaling the inevitable. Players and fans alike could not comprehend the tragedy. Lucas's body was carefully lifted from the field. The crowd remained frozen, unable to react. Another athlete's life ended in front of thousands of eyes. Incident 3. The stadium lights flickered as a sudden storm approached the pitch. 30-year-old defender Rafael Costa prepared for his final game of the season. Fans cheered wildly, unaware of the looming danger. Rain began falling, slicking the grass beneath the players' feet. Rafael sprinted forward, eyes fixed on the advancing striker. The ball came fast, bouncing unpredictably on the wet field. Rafael lunged, stretching every muscle to intercept it. A sharp crack of thunder split the sky overhead. Lightning struck a nearby metal goalpost, sending a shockwave. Rafael froze, his body tense, heart racing uncontrollably. A sudden jolt ran through his chest, sending him to the ground. The ball rolled past as players realized something was wrong. Fans screamed in panic, umbrellas tipping over. Medics sprinted to Rafael, who was convulsing on the turf. CPR began immediately, but his pulse was irregular and weak. His teammates stood in shock, unable to process the scene. The referee called for evacuation of the stadium. Lightning continued to flash, adding to the terror. The crowd was silent, except for cries of disbelief. Oxygen was administered, but Rafael's body showed no response. Medics signaled that he had suffered fatal cardiac arrest. Fans covered their faces, some collapsing in grief. Rafael was carefully lifted onto a stretcher, sheet covering him. The stadium emptied slowly, a tragic hush replacing the cheers. Another promising athlete's life ended in front of thousands of stunned spectators. Incident 4. The regional indoor basketball arena buzzed with anticipation. 24-year-old point guard Marco Alvarez warmed up on the glossy court. Fans cheered from the stands, waving homemade banners. The temperature inside the arena was unusually high. Marco dribbled the ball with his usual finesse. Sweat slicked his uniform as he prepared for the first play. Midway through the second quarter, he suddenly clutched his neck. His teammates noticed him slowing, confusion on their faces. He tried to call for help but could barely speak. Marco collapsed backward, arms flailing helplessly. The crowd gasped, realizing something was terribly wrong. Medics sprinted onto the court as fans fell silent. CPR began immediately while the scoreboard glowed overhead. His pulse was weak, heart irregular despite frantic compressions. Oxygen was applied, but Marco showed no signs of life. His teammates knelt beside him, horror written on their faces. Fans were ushered toward the exits, many in tears. The referee waved frantically, signaling for complete evacuation. Marco's body twitched once, then remained motionless. Medics signaled that he had suffered sudden cardiac arrest. The crowd could barely comprehend the tragedy unfolding. He was carefully lifted onto a stretcher, sheet covering his body. The arena emptied slowly, the cheers replaced by silence. Cameras captured the stunned faces of spectators and players. Another athlete's life ended in front of an entire community of fans. Incident 5. The local skate park was packed for the annual extreme sports competition. 22-year-old skateboarder Leo Santos tightened his helmet and stepped onto the ramp. Fans lined the rails, cameras ready to capture every trick. The sun beat down, making the metal ramps slick with sweat and dust. Leo performed a series of flawless flips, wowing the crowd. Cheers erupted as he prepared for his final stunt. He launched into the air, spinning higher than ever before. Suddenly, his board slipped from beneath him mid-rotation. Leo twisted uncontrollably, arms flailing as he fell. Time seemed to slow as spectators gasped in horror. He struck the concrete ramp hard, the sound echoing through the park. His body lay still, limbs sprawled awkwardly. Medics rushed to his side as fans fell silent. CPR began immediately, hands pressing desperately on his chest. Oxygen was applied, but his pulse remained weak. Teammates knelt beside him, some holding his head steady. The crowd backed away, unable to watch. Cameras captured every tense moment, zooming in on the tragedy. Leo twitched once, then remained motionless. The lead medic shook his head, signaling death. Fans covered their mouths, some collapsing in disbelief. His body was lifted carefully onto a stretcher. The skate park fell silent, cheers replaced with stunned murmurs. Emergency vehicles arrived, lights flashing, but the damage was done. Another young athlete's life ended in front of those who had come to admire him.